Part 72. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 711. Chapter 711 Invitation from the Princess's Mansion. Jiyan nodded and said with a smile, "Okay, everyone's New Year's gift will be delivered on the 28th. Each person has a fish, a piece of meat, a jar of wine, and a box of snacks, and snacks will be put in the shop. When the time comes, I'll give it to everyone for your hard work." "Thank you, boss." Shopkeeper Peng smiled so hard that he couldn't even see his eyes, and flattered him repeatedly, "Being able to work with my boss, we all are truly blessed in our previous lives. Not to mention the generous reward and salary, just the gifts brought back during the years are enough to make the neighbors envious." At this moment, the boy in the front hall suddenly came to report the news. "Boss, the shopkeeper from the branch, Bao Girl, is here. She shouted that she wanted to see the boss, so I sent her to the private room upstairs." Jiyan raised his eyebrows. She and Bao Lei didn't talk much about each other. "Bao Lei came here specially today, there must be something going on." With nothing to do, she took shopkeeper Peng and Shui Ling upstairs. Bao Lei was drinking milk tea. She didn't know if it was subconsciously causing trouble, but she always felt that the food in the branch was not as delicious as the ones in Bianjian. Just the Baiun cake and snacks. Maybe it got cold on the way to the branch, so it doesn't taste as good as when it's freshly baked. But milk tea can be made by filling it into a kettle, taking it home, and reheating it. Why is the taste so different? Just as she was thinking about it, she heard the door being pushed open. Looking up, before she could see the face of the visitor clearly, she squinted her eyes slightly because of the shining light of the gemstone. When Jiyan sat down across from her, her eyes still subconsciously fell on the 8-treasure necklace on her chest, and she was filled with jealousy. She is the legitimate daughter of the eldest princess's palace, and she does not have such an exquisite and expensive necklace. It just so happens that a little farm girl actually wears it when going out every day. It is not considered a good thing at all. Jiyan glanced at her and guessed most of it. He couldn't help but take off the collar and threw it to Shui Ling in a playful manner, complaining, "This thing is too heavy, I won't wear it next time." Grandma insisted on throwing them in the box. It would be a pity to waste them in vain. "But there are so many at home, I can't wear them all in a day, so I just throw them away." Shui Ling rolled his eyes and said with a smile, "Princess, you can't let the old lady hear what you said, otherwise she will say that you are so blessed that you don't know how blessed you are. There are so many poor people who have never even touched such jewelry, let alone wearing it." Bao Lei was so crowded that she secretly gritted her teeth. The handkerchief in her hand was about to be torn into strips, and her eyes wanted to quench poison. She was very sure that the poor person Shui Ling mentioned was her. It took all her strength to resist the urge to slam the door and leave. After all, she came with a mission today. If she didn't complete it, she would definitely not get anything good when she went home. Bao Lei took a deep breath and said, "Princess, thanks to your care in the past few months, the business of the branch is not bad. On the 18th day of the first lunar month of the next year, there will be a flower viewing party at our princess's residence, and almost all the noble ladies in Kyoto will go there. I am here to send you an invitation today, as ordered by my grandmother." After saying that, she took out a gold-painted post and pushed it in front of Jiyan. Jiyan raised her eyebrows and said with a smile, "Miss Bao, you can't bully me for being young. Previously during the Wanshao festival in Shaokong Palace, the eldest princess targeted and bullied me, and many people saw it. Now the eldest princess invites me to enjoy the flowers again. Has she changed her attitude too quickly? Is she trying to deceive me and manipulate me as she pleases? Young. Easy to bully." Bao Lei wanted to roll her eyes when she heard this, but she held back her temper and said, "Of course not. Grandma also listened to other people's slander last time and said something she shouldn't have said to the princess. After returning home, Grandma regretted it so much. That's why she took the initiative to invite the princess to our house to play. After that, she refused to touch the post after seeing the good news, and couldn't help but said excitedly, "The princess is not afraid, don't you dare to go. Jian is not afraid that the post will be manipulated. After all, she has learned medical skills for so long, and the life and death of being tortured by Dr. Zhang Shen is not in vain. She was just curious. I can't guess what bad idea the princess's mansion had and why she had to go to the banquet. But then I thought about it and decided to agree first. If I don't go by then, how could the princess mansion still send people to Broken Gold Beach to rob people? What's there to be afraid of?" Jian smiled nonchalantly, picked up the post and looked at it casually, then threw it aside and said, "Before, many people were blind and bullied me, and ended up very miserable. I don't mind going to the banquet to have some fun, but I'm afraid someone will be unlucky and regret it." Bao Lei looked at the smiling good news and her heart shrank. It's strange to say that this fat girl is indeed a bit evil. They didn't take advantage of them in the previous calculations. However, soon, she thought of her drunken father at home and cheered up again. She was looking forward to seeing this proud fat girl kneeling at her feet, begging her for charity like a dog. At that time, not to mention the 8-treasure necklace, even the white clouds will easily fall into her hands. After saying a few words, Bao Lei hurriedly left. In the lobby downstairs, the fragrant chicken popcorn has been put on the shelves. Customers who had tried it all added a box and ate it while it was hot. In the private room upstairs, a boy also knocked on the door and gave away sweet potatoes. It's a pity that Bao Lei was walking in a hurry and didn't notice at all. Jian brought some snacks and went to cyclamen again. Tao Hongying had several apprentices before. Although he is not yet able to do it alone, he is very competent at starting out. In the past few days, their master and apprentice have prepared half of the stir-fry dishes and even introduced 2 new dishes, which has been a great help to Jie Huan. Jie Huan can finally take a breather, cook something delicious to take home in the evening, and see her pregnant wife. Jian was carrying a box of chicken popcorn in the back kitchen, feeding my mother and brother in turn. Of course, she was fed more, and in the end she went home with her oily mouth smeared and her round belly in her hands. The new year is coming soon, and it's the most critical time for every household to prepare New Year's goods. Zindu is bustling with traffic inside and outside. Pedestrians on the road are rubbing shoulders one after another. I wish I could pick up a few trampled shoes every day while sweeping the streets. Jian was lying at the window, happily looking at this ordinary world, extremely intoxicated. In her previous life, she had no relatives or friends, and lived like a wild beast in the reinforced concrete urban jungle. The reason why she chose to go back to her hometown to live alone was because she could use the excuse that she liked peace and quiet to cover up her loneliness and lack of love. In this life, she simply grew up in a honeypot, living a lively life every day. Even though there are always some blind people coming to make trouble, she is still full of love. Love the cycle of the 4 seasons, love this world of fireworks. Oh, princess, look quickly, are those the young master and the others? Shui Ling couldn't sit still and occupied another window to watch the fun. Suddenly she started shouting. Her voice was also loud. Before Jiyan went over to check on her, Jiaran and others had already heard the noise and ran to her. Sister, Brother Cat was the first to shout. He happily jumped off the horse and got directly into the carriage. Jiaran and Brother Li also jumped off their horses and grabbed their sister's hand. Jiaran looked at his sister up and down, and was relieved when he saw that her sister was still fair, plump, and cute, with a smile on her face. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 712. Chapter 712. The charm of hot pot is irresistible. Brother Li was even more anxious and asked, Sister, I heard that someone is bullying our family. How are you and how is your family? Haha, brother, don't worry, my family is doing well, and the people who bully our family are working hard outside the village digging ditches. Jiyan was so happy that she hugged her eldest brother and her sixth brother. She still remembered to open the food box and serve the greedy seventh brother some hot croquettes. Brother Cat howled with joy and stuffed a few into his mouth. He didn't forget to feed his eldest brother and sixth brother, and of course he didn't forget Luzong and Jiasu. Luzong and Jiasu couldn't help but feel envious when they saw the Li brothers and sisters being so lively and close. The Jia family is okay, there is no intrigue, but it is not as close as the Li family brothers and sisters. Let alone the Lu family, it would be nice if the brothers of Luzong didn't think about killing him. Jiaran saw someone looking over and urged his siblings to go home quickly. Brother Li also jumped on the carriage, while Jiaran accompanied Luzong and Jiasu on horseback. Brother Li and Brother Cat surrounded their sister. While eating, they chattered about interesting things about this long trip, laughing from time to time. Jiaran, Luzong, and Jiasu followed the car and laughed non-stop. They soon arrived at Sujintan. After receiving the news, Mrs. Li didn't even have time to put on her coat and went directly to the entrance of the village to wait. She really missed her grandson. She hugged her, patted her, and kept shouting, "Oh, I've lost weight, I've lost weight. Did you not eat well on the road? You are on a study tour, why are you more embarrassed than when you were fleeing from home?" The three Jiaran brothers all had red circles in their eyes. They hugged their grandma and smelled the familiar warm smell on her body. Only then did their wandering hearts finally settle down. Jiyan looked at Luzong and Jiasu standing aside, and quickly introduced her to Grandma. "Nai, these are Brother Lu and Brother Jia, who came back with my brother and the others. Let's go into the house first, my brother and the others are tired, I'll go get some food, and Grandma will arrange a hot bed for them." "Okay, okay. Just come back," old Mrs. Li quickly responded, holding Luzong and Jiasu one by one and walking towards the courtyard. "Let's go, child, and hurry into the house, you're tired from the journey, eat more in a while, and then have a full sleep to relieve your fatigue. The old man's hands are a little rough, but dry and warm." Luzong and Jiasu looked at each other, laughed, and followed in obediently. Cat brother ate half a box of croquettes, a lot of snacks and fruits in the car. He was still jumping on his feet and shouted, "Sister, I want to eat hot pot. Put a lot of meat. I want to eat meat." Just in time, Zhao Yuru, Li Lao-san, and Li Lao-si rushed back from outside after hearing the news, and they couldn't help laughing. Li Lao-si rolled up his sleeves at that time and said with a smile, "Isn't it easy to eat meat? Wait for your fourth uncle to cut the mutton slices for you." Li Lao-san also said, "I'm going to kill the fish. I remember that Brother Cat likes to eat fish pot." Zhao Yuru stepped forward and hugged Brother Cat, with a look of distress on her face. No wonder the child is clamoring for meat. He has really lost a lot of weight. You must eat meat, eat more meat. Orange Mrs. Li called Auntie for help. First clean up the children's room, and then let them go to a hot spring after eating, and then have a good sleep. Grandma, he agreed with a smile and went down to get busy. The entire front yard of the Li family is dominated by young and old men, and there are many empty rooms. Luzong and Jiasu lived in the room next to Jiaran. After briefly washing their hands and faces and putting on Jiaran's new clothes, they were called to eat. At this time, it was just past midnight and it was not yet time for dinner, so this meal was just for the children and was served in Jiaran's room. The big square table was placed on the hot bed. In the middle of the table is a steaming mandarin duck pot, which is fragrant on one side and spicy on the other. Various vegetables and fish and meatballs are full, especially lamb slices, which are full of 5 plates of top tip. Even in the kitchen, a table was also opened. Go Sheng-er, Zheng Lu, and Zheng Qi, accompanied by the young men from the Lu family and the Jia family, had already started eating. Mrs. Lee took her son and daughter-in-law to invite the children to sit around the table, and then made an excuse to go back to the main room, leaving the children to eat more comfortably. Of course, there is no need to avoid Jiyan, the beloved sister of the group. She took a colander and cooked the meat for one brother and peeled the shrimp for the other brother. Occasionally, she would refill the cold honey and passion fruit drink. The three Grn brothers are used to eating, but this is the first time for Jiasu and Luzong to see the charm of hot pot. Snowflakes are flying outside the window and the cold wind is howling. In the window, they threw off their cotton robes, sweating profusely after eating, and drinking fruit drinks that were so spicy. How could the word refreshing be used? No wonder Brother Cat keeps saying that it's so good to eat hot pot in winter. Luzong swallowed a meatball in one gulp, breathing hot air from his mouth, and he didn't forget to give Brother Cat a thumbs up. Brother Cat was so proud that he gave the last bite of his favorite tripe to Luzong and said with a smile, "My fourth aunt and second brother are the best. Let me tell you, even though our family doesn't live in a big house, our food is first class." Jiasu was so spicy that he took a piece of raw cucumber and bit into it, unable to help but nod along. If nothing else, your family is definitely the first to be able to gather so many vegetables on such a winter day. Jiyan thought of Beizu and smiled, "Brother Jia, are you going home tomorrow? Help me bring a basket of cucumbers to Beizu then." Last time when Beizu came to play, she couldn't pick the cucumbers yet she almost made my ears go crazy. Jiasu couldn't help but be surprised to hear her tone of voice, as if she knew her cousin very well. He went on a study tour. Did a lot of things happen? But he still responded. The meal was very lively and the dishes were all empty. Luzong and Jiasu were very eye-catching, so they disappeared and went back to the house as an excuse. The three Grn brothers and their sister went to the main room to talk to the elders about their trip to the south. "I heard that my eldest brother will be able to take the fleet to the military camp dock early tomorrow morning. How could Li Lao-san and Li Lao-si still sit still?" Li Lao-si quickly said, "Mom, the third brother and I went there before, but we didn't meet the eldest brother. It's just one day. Let's go out again tonight and come back with my eldest brother tomorrow, okay?" Li Lao-san also said, "Yes, Mom, I just happened to pick up my eldest brother and come back tomorrow to eat Xiaonian's dumplings." Mrs. Lee didn't stop her and told her, "Wear thicker clothes and wrap up the wolfskin cloak. If something delays you, remember to send someone back to let us know." Li Lao-san and Li Lao-si happily agreed, and then they really wrapped themselves up as fat as a winter melon, and then set off. Mrs. Lee held her eldest grandson's hand and asked a lot of trivial matters. She was very happy to hear the exchange between the college and colleagues in Quanzhou. But then, she suddenly remembered something and asked, "Where are Ji and Lu Yang? Are they staying on the boat with your uncle? You should have asked your fourth uncle to bring them some food." Jiaran was stunned for a moment, his expression was 3 parts worried and 7 parts uneasy. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 713. Chapter 713, Meeting Love Again. He thought for a while and said, "Ji and Lu Yang are staying in Quanzhou, and the uncle has arranged an errand for them. I don't know the details. I will definitely tell Grandma when my uncle comes back." Mrs. Lee was peeling a banana to eat, but she didn't notice anything wrong with her grandson's expression. She nodded, put the banana into her grandson's hand, smiled and said, "Come, try this fruit called banana." Lao Hei and the others brought it back from Yunzhou Prefecture. "It's very soft and sweet. Your sister planted it in the greenhouse and it actually came alive. She can cut off a big bunch every time." Actually, Quanzhou Prefecture also has this kind of banana, and Jiren had already eaten it when he went there this time. Originally, I wanted to transport some back, but these things were afraid of being bumped and were not durable for storage. They couldn't hold on for 5 or 6 days and turned black and rotten. Unexpectedly, after returning home 1,000 miles away, he would eat it again. He followed his grandmother's words and praised her a few times, which indeed made the old lady even happier. When it got dark, the old and young ladies ate a simple bowl of shredded pork noodles and went to the backyard to rest. The front yard immediately became a paradise for the boys, and they just happened to have eaten, so they plunged into the hot spring pool in the wing room, took a bath, had a water fight, and almost overturned the roof of the house with laughter. Luzong and Jiasu experienced the joy of hot spring bathing again. It's true as Brother Mao said, although the Li family is not a big house, the food and accommodation are first class and comfortable. They were really reluctant to say goodbye. But after dinner the next morning, they took the Li family's carriage back to the city. Jiasu is going home to meet his parents and elders. Luzong also has a house in the city. He plans to write more about his experiences in Quanzhou and then send it back to his father to read. It will also be regarded as the year-end summary he handed in after being away from home for so long. Jiren originally wanted to see them off, but both of them refused. The Li family is finally reunited, so it would be good to get closer to each other for a while. Brother Mao and Brother Li haven't been back for a long time, looking at everything in the village. So the two took their younger sister and older brother to play. At this time of year, the mountains are covered with snow, making it impossible to climb up. The only place where you can walk is the hot spring valley. Watching the snow while soaking in hot springs is an elegant thing that many people inside and outside Zindu admire, so since the snow fell, the hot spring valley has been overcrowded. The village was afraid of problems, so it directly stopped all individual visitors and only received scheduled guests every day. In this way, knowing the specific number of people and men and women will make arrangements and care easier. Especially here in the kitchen, a small casserole stew is newly introduced. Put a casserole on the charcoal stove, put chicken mushrooms, sauerkraut and frozen tofu, or shredded radish meatballs, etc., and stew until it is steaming. Pair it with a bowl of white rice, a bowl of fat and thin meat, and a plate. Pickles are the most standard set meal. With only a few hundred pennies, guests can have a warm meal. Although Sujintan earns a lot of money every year from growing melons and fruits. But the hot spring valley is still the main way for the village to store food, and the money coming in is also a steady stream, and a little adds up to a lot. Jiren and his younger siblings played in the valley for more than half an hour, then he carried his younger sister and younger brothers back home. When they reached the entrance of the village, they saw a carriage parked in front of their house from a distance. The brothers and sisters walked over, and before asking, the car door opened, and a girl in a blue dress was about to get out of the car. Possibly, she didn't expect there was someone outside, so she was startled, her feet slipped slightly, and she fell down. Jiren quickly took 2 steps forward and stretched out his arm. The girl was anxious and grabbed his arm, finally landing him firmly on the ground. Then, another boy jumped out of the carriage and shouted, "Sister, are you okay? But your foot is sprained." The girl quickly shook her head, and then brought her younger brother and her family members to see her. The girl is none other than Sien Weiner. Their family prepared a New Year gift for the Li family. Taking advantage of the fact that it was still sunny today, she took her brother over for a walk. Unexpectedly, she saw Jiren as soon as she got off the car. Remembering the tacit understanding between the two families about the marriage contract, she was shy and lost her sense of proportion, and made a fool of herself again. Sien Wana's face turned red and she really wanted to find a crack in the ground to crawl in. She has the best rules on weekdays, her manners are dignified, and she never makes any mistakes. But in front of Jiren, he made mistakes one after another. Brother Li and Brother Mao had also heard of this girl from the Sien family. Seeing her and her eldest brother standing together, both of them blushing and being polite to each other, they couldn't help but wink and make faces, laughing. No. Similarly, Xin Ning was also looking at Jiren, his future brother-in-law. He wanted to find something wrong to prove that Jiren was not worthy of his sister, so that his sister would not have to get married. Unfortunately, after thinking about it for a while, he felt a little discouraged. Jiren has a tall and straight figure, handsome appearance, pure eyes, and gentle manner. Such a young master is worthy of his sister. In fact, it's barely enough. Jiyan had jumped off her brother's back a long time ago. Seeing the little pink heart between Sister Wan and her brother, she really couldn't bear to disturb her. But this is the doorway to the house, and it cannot be blocked all the time. She ran over, held Wanner's hand, and said with a smile, "Sister Wanner, why did you come here? I miss you. Last time, did you forget the veil you promised to give me? I'm so sad." "No, no," Wanner responded quickly, straightened the crooked cloak for Jiyan, and said with a smile, "Of course I will remember it. I have embroidered 4 handkerchiefs for you in the past few days and will give them to you later." "Okay, okay," Jiyan smiled happily, pulled Wanner inside, and shouted loudly, "Grandma, Sister Wanner is here." Brother Li and Brother Mao also pulled Xin Ning from left to right and walked in. They asked him what snacks he liked to eat and what he liked to play with. They tried to help their brother get rid of this brother-in-law as soon as possible. Mrs. Li heard the commotion and came out of the house. When she saw her eldest grandson and Wanner coming in from the door together, she was so happy that she quickly called them into the house to warm up. Zhao Yuru has never met Wanner, but she also knows that this future eldest grandson's daughter-in-law is loved by everyone in the family. So she also put down her work and joined her mother-in-law in entertaining. Wanner brought her younger brother to salute the elders, dignified and calmly, and presented them with all the New Year gifts prepared by the family. Finally, she took out the needle and thread she had made. In addition to a set of clothes and shoes for Dr. Zhang, Mrs. Li also got a homely jacket. Although the material is not expensive satin, it is the softest and most comfortable fine cotton. The stitches are fine and flat, embroidered with flowers, and it fits perfectly. Mrs. Li smiled from ear to ear and kept praising her. "Wanner is really good at her craftsmanship. It just so happened that when Juan just sewed a mink fur hat for me, so we can dress it up together during the Chinese New Year. Haha, I am the happiest old lady in our village." When Juan sat on the side with a bulging belly, hearing that her grandma liked her future sister-in-law but had not forgotten her, which made her feel really happy and happy. Zhao Yuru also smiled and said, "Yes, mother. I can be lazy from now on, these children are really more skillful than the other." "Oh, that can't be done." Mrs. Li grabbed her daughter-in-law's hand and said, "They sew clothes, but you can make shoes. The shoes you make will fit the best." Zhao Yuru sighed, pretending to be distressed, and said, "Oh, it's not easy to be lazy. My mother-in-law is so shrewd." "Huh, you didn't know until it was too late." Old Mrs. Li pinched her waist proudly. "How many years have you been here since you came here, and you are already having a grandchild in your arms, and you still want to run away at this time? No way." Everyone laughed when they heard this, and the room was very lively for a while. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 714. Chapter 714, Be open and honest if you like it. Jiyan took her veil and ran to show off to her elder brother. "Brother, look, my sister Wanner's craftsmanship is so good." Jiaren's face turned slightly red, he looked at it carefully, and finally laughed. They say words are like people, but in fact, a lot of things can be seen in a woman's needlework. For example, a person with an impatient personality cannot sew such a smooth and fine stitch. Seeing this, Wanner couldn't help but blush even more and lowered her head slightly. Mrs. Lee planned to strike while the iron was hot and quickly winked at her little granddaughter. I understood the good news instantly and started organizing immediately. Sister Wanner, all the flowers are blooming in my greenhouse, and there are a lot of fruits. Come and have a look with me, okay? After saying that, she took Wanner and stood up. Brother Lee and Brother Cat also jumped up and pulled Si Ning. Let's go, brother. When my fourth uncle was killing barbarians in the north, he captured a pony for my sister. It's very beautiful. Yes, let's go, let's take you to see it. You can try riding it twice. As long as you are a kid, there is no one who doesn't like riding horses. Si Ning had no time to think about her sister, so she was dragged away by them in a daze. So, Ji Yin took her brother with one hand and Sin Weiner with the other, and happily went to the greenhouse. The Li family doesn't have many servants, and the backyard is even quieter. Go through the corner door and enter the greenhouse behind Yes house. The cold wind is howling outside, but inside the greenhouse it is as warm as spring, with the fragrance of flowers everywhere and abundant fruits. Wanner was still a little shy, but she was also attracted by these flowers and fruits, and couldn't help being surprised and happy. Ji Yin released the little fox from the space, pushed his brother, and pretended to run to catch the little fox. The little fox was jumping and biting grapes when it was suddenly being chased around by its owner. It was still a little dazed. It blinked its small black bean-like eyes, not understanding what was happening. On the other side, Jiren, holding back his panic, was explaining the origins of those flowers and fruits to Wanner in a gentle voice. Among them, some were found by family members from Quanzhou. This topic naturally gradually transitioned to the customs in Quanzhou and the vastness of the sea. Although Wanner is a woman, she is also well read on weekdays, and her favorite is the travel notes on mountains and rivers. For a moment, she was fascinated by what she heard and couldn't help but say, "It would be great if I could go and see it with my own eyes." Jiren responded smoothly, "Okay, I will take you there later." After saying that, the two looked at each other and both blushed. Jiren is a man after all. He coughed twice, straightened his face, and bravely said what he wanted to say. "Miss Wanner, I know that our family intends to marry your family, and my elders also like you very much. But I went to Quanzhou to study before, and I didn't have the chance to get to know you, and you didn't have the chance to see me twice. It would be too hasty to get engaged and get married like this. If you find that we are not suitable for each other in the future, but we still have to be tied together for the rest of our lives and become a couple, it will ruin your life and mine. So, I would like to take this opportunity to ask you what you think. Can we move around more and get along more in the name of family for half a year? If we feel that we have the same interests, then it's our destiny. If we are not suitable for each other, half a year will not delay each other in continuing to find marriage. What do you think?" Wanner was a little surprised when she heard that. She looked up at him and saw that his eyes were clear and his expression was very magnanimous and solemn. She felt at ease in her heart, and there was a bit of novelty in her heart. As a woman, she obeys her father at home, her husband when married, and her son after her husband's death. It seems like you have to obey arrangements all your life and have no right to choose. But the man in front of her gave her the respect she had never had before, and gave her the right to test him, observe him, and choose him. "Okay," she responded immediately and laughed sincerely. Jiren was dazzled by the smile and started laughing too. He thought for a while, took off the glove on his right hand, showed Wanner his injured hand, briefly talked about the time when his fingers were bitten off by a wolf when he was escaping from famine, and then said, "I am practicing calligraphy on my left hand now. An injured hand will not delay the scientific examination, but I still want you to know. Besides, I am the grandson of the Li family, and I will support the Li family in the future. The girl who marries me will be the director of the family, and she will have to be filial to her elders and protect her younger siblings with me. It will definitely be very tiring." Wanner didn't know whether she was stunned by Jiaren's injured hand, or she was too satisfied with Jiaren, so she blurted out, "I am also the director of the family at home, I am used to it." After saying that, she remembered that she seemed to be in a hurry to enter Li's house, so her face turned red with embarrassment, and she quickly pretended to appreciate the flowers, refusing to raise her head. Jiyan hugged the little fox and eavesdropped on the side, laughing so hard that his stomach knotted up. At this moment, she hurriedly came to the rescue. Otherwise, she is really afraid that her eldest brother and future sister-in-law will blush so much that they will steam themselves. "Sister Wanner, do you have any flowers you like? I'll give you 2 pots and take them home to display, so that the new year will be lively and joyful." After saying that, she stuffed another basket to her eldest brother. "Brother, Sister Wanner likes to eat grapes. You go pick a basket and bring it back to Sister Wanner later." Jiaren rubbed his sister's hair and turned to pick grapes. After the grapes were picked, Sien Wainer also chose 2 pots of azaleas in full bloom, which were lively and festive, not expensive, and easy to take care of. Jiaren glanced at her and became even more fond of this girl. Know how to advance and retreat, know how to measure. These 2 points alone are already commendable. Soon, the 3 of them returned to the front yard. Wanner chatted with Mrs. Li and Zhao Yuru for a while, then went to Wen's house to sit and give New Year's gifts. At this time, Xin Ning's face was flushed with excitement, and she followed Brother Li and Brother Cat back. Just now, he not only helped brush and feed the horse, but also rode the pony for a few laps. He was so happy that he went crazy. Sien Wainer then said goodbye and took the car to go home. As soon as the carriage left the village entrance, Brother Li and Brother Cat hugged the eldest brother's arm, urging him to ask questions like monkeys. "Brother, how are you? What did you say to Sister Wanner? Do you want to get engaged? Will she be our sister-in-law from now on?" Jiaren knocked 2 chestnuts from his brother, then went back to the house with a blushing face. Brother Li and Brother Cat were disappointed, but when they saw their sister, their eyes lit up again. Jiyan sat on the sedan carried by his 2 brothers and returned to the main room proudly. Then he vividly talked about the conversation between his eldest brother and his sister Wanner. Everyone couldn't help but laugh when they thought about the shy appearance of the 2 young children. Old Mrs. Li agreed with her eldest grandson's approach and said, "It's best for Jiaren to be upright and above board. Although his hand injury will not delay his life and scientific examination, he must always tell the girl in advance. Also, he is the eldest brother. There are so many younger brothers and sisters. Whoever marries him will have to worry about following him in the future." Brother Cat quickly said, "We don't let the elder brother and sister-in-law worry. We can also help the elder sister-in-law keep an eye on the elder brother and prevent him from being seduced by the vixen." "Oh, this kid is looking for a fight? Why did he come back after learning such words after going out for a trip?" Zhao Yuru raised her hand to scare her nephew, causing the cat brother to rush over and hug her like a baby. Brother Cat is the youngest, and when his mother left, he was still ignorant. In the past few years, Zhao Yuru, the 3rd aunt, has taken care of him by eating, drinking, dressing and loving him in every way. He treats his 3rd aunt as if he were his own mother. He is really better than his younger sister in the ability to act coquettishly and make trouble. Everyone couldn't help laughing, said a few words and then went about their business. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 715. Chapter 715, Prepare an extra escape route for the family. Today is the New Year's Eve. It is my family's custom to eat dumplings. But it is difficult to reconcile the opinions of others, as there are many children and grandchildren, and their preferences are also different. Mrs. Li was so happy that she took Grandma He and Shui Yun to prepare 4 kinds of fillings: sauerkraut and pork, leeks and eggs, pork and chopped green onions, beef and coriander. Mrs. Wen was at home alone. She heard the excitement in the Li family and came over to help. The old and young girls sat in a group on the kong and stood in a group on the ground. They were divided into two places to make dumplings. When the sun turned to the west, Li Laosan and Li Laosi brought Li Zhensheng back, and even the Marquis and Li Yong followed behind on horseback. Li Zhensheng kowtowed to his mother and spoke again, and he was going to ask Lu Yang to come over for dinner and talk about Lu Yang's stay in the south. Orange Mrs. Li simply invited Lu Baiatu's family of three, two village elders, Hui Niang's mother and son, Uncle Zhao and divine Dr. Zhang to gather together. Tao Hongying and Jia Huan also received the news that the restaurant closed early, so they went home to help and join in the fun. On the way, they happened to meet Mr. Wen and Li Lao again. Now, the family is more complete. Men want to drink, but they are not in a hurry to eat dumplings. So, Jia Huan quickly stir-fried 4 vegetables. Tao Hongying cut a plate of donkey meat in sauce, tore up 2 roast chickens, added a fried peanut, and a spicy seafood platter. After gathering a total of 8 dishes, we held a banquet in the main room. Young and old men were sitting around. Jiaran and brother Li were at the bottom helping to keep the charcoal stove scalding the wine and pouring it. As for the cat brother, he had already followed his sister and got into the stove to steal things. Everyone asked about Li Zhensheng's experience of going south. Li Zhensheng briefly talked about it, and finally turned to Lu Baiatu and Li Lao. He thought carefully and said, "Ji Yi and Lu Yang, we stayed in the south this time. It's a coincidence that I took the children out to sea to go fishing, originally to open their eyes. Unexpectedly, they encountered Japanese pirates chasing down the fishing boat. Ji Yi and Lu Yang were very skilled and killed 5 or 6 Japanese pirates and saved many people. When the Hailan army in charge of patrolling and guarding arrived, General Tang Jingtang valued Ji Yi and Lu Yang very much, invited them to join the army many times, and directly made them captains. I inquired privately and found out that this Tang general was very brave, fair, and very prestigious among the fishermen. In addition, Lu Yang and Ji Yi were also tempted and begged me to stay. I went to see General Tang and temporarily asked the 2 boys to help in the Hailan army. I will come back this time to ask for your opinions before deciding whether the 2 children should stay in Hailan army for a long time." Li Lao and Lu Baiatu were both surprised when they heard this, and frowned in worry. But thinking about it again, both of them sighed again. Lu Baiatu said, "My boy Lu Yang has not been peaceful since he was a child. He is bold and afraid of others. I originally thought that he might want to eat from Jianghu. It was also because of this that I was afraid that he would have some evil deeds and the family would die out, so I gave birth to another child. Unexpectedly, instead of entering the rivers and lakes, he went to kill the Japanese pirates. As parents, we naturally hope that he will live a safe and responsible life, but since we can't stop him, we won't stop him and let him do whatever he wants. In the final analysis, killing Japanese pirates and protecting the people of Tianwu is better than fighting and killing in the rivers and lakes." Li Lao took a sip of wine and said, "I was originally worried about the way out for my family, but actually joining the army was the best choice. But our 4th son and Daong both followed the Marquis in the northern expedition. If Ji Yi and Lu Yang join the army again, they will be easily feared, and it will not be easy for the 2 children to stand out. Whether they have joined the Hailan army now, my eldest brother originally planned to put down another route in Quanzhou to prepare an additional escape route for the family. From now on, Ji Yi and Lu Yang will work there as errands. They will have someone to take care of the family business, and they will have a good future." After saying that, he couldn't help but look towards the back room, worried that my mother would be thinking about her. In the room, Mrs. Li stopped what she was doing as soon as she talked about her grandson. She knew in her heart that it was a good thing for Ji Yi to have such an opportunity, and joining the army to kill Japanese pirates was to protect her family and country. As a grandmother, I am always reluctant to let my children run so far and face danger. That's it, second brother, just write a letter to Ji Yi. Let him do his job well and his family will support him. Just ask him to pay more attention to his safety. Old Mrs. Lee sighed and asked, the family does not ask him to make any achievements, but only wants him to be safe and successful. It would be better if he could come back for a few days every year during the new year. Sister-in-law Lu was holding her youngest son, Fatty, in her arms, and her eyes were red when she thought about her eldest son. If possible, she would not want her son to kill Japanese pirates. But if parents love their children, they have far-reaching plans. Her son likes this path and can find a good future. No matter how reluctant she is, she cannot stop him. Mrs. Wen patted her hand and silently comforted her. I don't know when the good news came and I ran back to the house. After listening to it for a long time, I sighed in my heart. From now on, the brothers will be far apart, and it will be extremely difficult for them to get together again. Mr. Ho rubbed the little girl's soft hair and said after hearing that Li Laoer and Lu Biatu decided to let the children go wild. The eldest son of General Tang Jingtang is now also in the Hailan army. He has some friendship with me. Wait for me to write a letter and send it to the south together. Please ask the Tang family to take more care of Ji Yi and Lu Yang from now on. It doesn't matter how much support they have as long as no one dares to take credit and frame them, the future of these two boys will be much smoother. Li Laoer and Lu Biatu were both happy when they heard this, and quickly stood up to salute and thank them. At this time, everyone was full of wine again, talking about Tianwu's internal and external troubles, and the situation of being attacked from both sides. It has become so obvious that it is impossible to deceive oneself and others now. But in Xindu, most of the dignitaries are still drunk and singing every night, which really makes people want to sigh. Jiaran and brother Li sat at the door and listened quietly without interrupting. Why children from aristocratic families are more likely to stand out than children from ordinary families? This is the difference. Even if no one teaches you step by step, you can already learn a lot just by listening and seeing at such banquets, chatting, and interacting with relatives and friends. On the second day, the good news is about to enter the city and go to the marquee mansion, and the arrangements for each family's New Year's rites must begin. Fortunately, I had already made a list before and the things I needed were clearly written down. Now it's just a matter of following the list, preparing the fresh fruits, vegetables, and blooming potted flowers that she needs to supplement, and transporting them directly to the marquee mansion. Jiaran brought brother Li and brother Kat, and even dressed up for the family celebration. He also wanted to send New Year gifts to the family. The Peng family over at the academy, Dean Zhou's family, and Mr. Tang's family must not be left behind. But before that, Jiaran had to go to Jia's house, and then to Xing's house, accompanied by Jia Su. In this way, the Xing family couple can take a good look at his appearance and character. Furthermore, even if outsiders are confused and curious, they won't worry too much if Jia Su is with them. In case the marriage fails in the future, Wan's reputation will not be ruined. It can be said to be quite thoughtful. The family members were busy all morning and finally packed up all 3 carriages. Seeing that the children got on the bus and went out to walk around and be busy, for a while, Mrs. Lee and others felt a little uncomfortable. Time flies so fast, the children seem to have suddenly grown up and are already able to go to the ceremony on behalf of the family. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 716. Chapter 716, Giving New Year's Gifts is a process of exchange. Jia Su just returned home yesterday. The family heard that he stayed at the Li family for one night, ate hot pot, and soaked in hot springs. Even when he went south, he received good care from the Li family. From Mrs. Jia to Beizu, everyone, old and young, is extremely grateful to the Li family. So Mrs. Geo personally took her 3 daughters-in-law and prepared a New Year gift for the Lee family. Before sending it out, the 4 GRN brothers came to visit and presented New Year gifts. The specialties of Broken Gold Beach are jade melons and golden fruits. At this time of the year, we have planted a lot of them in the Jiyan space, but we dare not take them out. Fortunately, the fruits on the mountain are not bad, so Jiyan is not going to interfere. Therefore, the New Year gifts prepared by the Lee family for their relatives and friends are basically 2 baskets of fruits, 2 baskets of fresh vegetables, 2 boxes of snacks from Bayanjian, and a pig leg, plus sea fish and dry goods brought back by the fleet. The pig hind legs were specially set aside after selecting 3 fat pigs from the pig house a few days ago and killing them together. The big white pig of Broken Gold Beach is now also a star pig in Shilibaxiang. Everyone travels a long way to bring their sows here to get married and then give birth to a litter of white pigs or florid pigs. I don't know if it's an illusion, but everyone thinks that these white pigs and florid pigs are easier to grow meat when raised, and the pork tastes less fishy and more fragrant. So, this time the Lee family selected pig legs as a New Year gift and sent them to every house. Because of her good relationship with the Geo family, Mrs. Lee missed Mrs. Chia, an old sister, and specifically asked her granddaughter to provide 2 extra baskets of good fruits. For example, bananas, sweet oranges, pears, grapes, etc. As the elderly get older and their sense of taste deteriorates, they are always willing to eat some sweet fruits. Especially in winter, people sleep on a fire bed and use earth dragons or charcoal pots for warmth to avoid getting burned. At this time, it is so happy to have a juicy fruit to moisten my throat. Mrs. Geo smiled happily and quickly asked her daughter-in-law to bring out her New Year's gifts. The Geo family has no fruits or fresh vegetables, but they have a cloth village and a farm. So the New Year's gift to the Lee family was 2 cages of pheasants, 2 barrels of carp, 4 bags of new rice, 2 bags of sticky rice and 1 bag of beans of various colors. In addition, there are 4 pieces of silk, 4 pieces of fine cotton, 4 boxes of embroidery thread and embroidery needles. There are a lot of these things, but the GRN brothers still have to go to the Singh family, so they cannot be put on the Lee family's carriage. So, Jiasu first accompanied everyone to Singh's house, and then personally delivered the things to Rujintan. The Geo family was very happy to see the Lee family and the Singh family get married, so after sitting for a while, Mrs. Jia kicked her grandson out and hurriedly took the GRN brothers out. Mrs. Jia had already sent news to her brother's family, so Mr. Singh and Mrs. Singh were waiting at home. Previously, my daughter came back, but she endured her shyness and talked a lot with Mrs. Singh. The Lee family's love and GRN's magnanimity satisfy both Master Singh and Mrs. Singh. But they had not seen GRN with their own eyes, and they were still worried. Finally, Singh Ning greeted everyone in front of the door. GRN walked in front and was the first to enter. Compared to those wealthy families, the Lee family has a much shallower foundation. But GRN is the grandson of Lee's parents. He has followed his family from a poor farm to the present. He has experienced a lot and has experienced a lot. He has been studying and taking care of his younger brothers. The most important thing about him is stability and pragmatism. There is still a bit of bookishness in it. This is the look that all the elders like the most. After all, who doesn't want his daughter to marry a good and reliable man? GRN was wearing a sapphire blue brocade robe today, a navy blue belt around his waist, a jade pendant engraved with the 3 friends of Sui Han, and a dark green purse. He has black hair, with a hollow silver band, which is neat and tidy. His bronze face looks very healthy, without the paleness that is common among scholars. Wearing boots with white solace and navy blue suede, gosh ox are embroidered with gold thread on both sides of the ankles. Because the weather was cold, he also wore a wolf skin lining and a dark brocade embroidered goshawk cloak, matching the boots. Mr. Singh and Mrs. Singh were filled with satisfaction when they saw such a handsome young man walking in step by step through the light snow that had just fallen. Soon, both parties bowed and offered their seats for tea. Mr. Singh and Mrs. Singh did not neglect Jia Huan, Brother Li, and Brother Mao. Jia Huan is honest, Brother Li is smart and polite, Brother Cat is innocent and lively, and they all have lovable personalities. This also made Mr. Singh and Mrs. Singh even happier. After all, in a gang of heroes, no matter how good the son-in-law is, he still needs the support of his brothers. Evidently the Li family is as united as brothers and their family business is prosperous as they heard. Mr. Singh is an editor and reads books all day long, so he is naturally very knowledgeable. Just after chatting a few words, he couldn't help but start testing Jiaran's lessons. Even Brother Li and Brother Mao didn't let them go. Only Jia Huan escaped the catastrophe because he was a cook. As a result, not only Jiaran's response made Master Singh extremely satisfied, but Brother Li and Brother Mao were also not bad. This aroused Mr. Singh's love for talents, and he wanted to arrest the Jiaran brothers and ask them until dark. Fortunately, Mr. Singh is still unfinished and has made an appointment for Jiaran to come and have a long chat with him when he has time after the new year. Jiaran was not timid and responded generously. When he was going out, a window in the side room opened a crack as wide as a palm. Jiaran guessed that Wanner was behind, so he nodded with a smile and left with his brothers. Not to mention that the Jiaran brothers hurried to Luoan Academy, they were very busy with the good news. In the main hall of the Marquis mansion, the housekeeper accompanied Jiyan and was sorting out the gift lists one by one, writing out the gift lists in return, and preparing things. Logically speaking, the Marquis has a large number of troops and is determined to be a solitary minister. He rarely has anything to do with outsiders. But humans are social animals, how can they not have any human feelings at all? So, even if the Ho mansion only gives New Year's gifts to some old relatives and friends of the family and the Ho's fellow teachers, there are more than 30 people in total. The housekeeper couldn't help but said, fortunately, the fruits and fresh vegetables brought by the princess added color to the New Year's gift. Otherwise, there will be so many things that are exchanged every year. What is sent from this family will be sent to that family. In the end, many people may have received things that were given away by themselves, which would be really embarrassing. Jiyan closed the gift list and said with a smile, fortunately, our family has a greenhouse, and there is no shortage of fruits and vegetables. They are rare at this time of year, so we really saved a lot of money on New Year gifts. She pointed to the 10 baskets of fruit in the corner of the storehouse on the ground, and gave instructions to the steward. Uncle Steward, these fruits are for the people in the mansion. Could you please help me share them? Tomorrow, I will go to the palace and give a New Year gift to Uncle Huang. If there is anything in the mansion, please ask someone to find me at any time. Yes, Princess, the chief steward responded with a smile. When he was about to speak, the Marquis came back, followed by 2 young men. The housekeeper looked familiar and did not recognize it for a moment, but Jiyan jumped up happily. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 717. Chapter 717, Food cooked in separate pots is the most delicious. This is not a young man, it is clearly a family peace and a happy home. Brother, you are finally back. Grandma was still talking about it yesterday. Is it a holiday and can I go home? Jiyan pulled the 2 brothers and kept asking them. Jian and Jiaxi were also smiling. They hadn't seen each other for a few months, and they wanted to talk to their sister for days and nights. The Marquis briefly asked about trivial matters in the house. When he heard that the good news had been dealt with, he took the 3 children back to Sujintan. The Li family is busy frying fried mahua, avocados, and dried fruits today. Wenjuan couldn't help but choked on the oil smoke. so she went to find Mrs. Wen to do needlework for her child. At the end of the first month of the year, she will give birth. The family has prepared a lot of clothing and supplies for the children, and she keeps sewing with her own hands. She hopes that the children will have enough supplies before they are 3 or 4 years old, but she still feels that it is not enough. She lost her mother when she was young, and now she has a child. She really wants to give all her love to her child. Zhao Yuru spent most of her time in Luoyang this year. She felt that she was in debt to her family and did not fulfill her filial piety to her mother-in-law. She has been busy all the time when she returned home these days, and occasionally she would talk to her mother-in-law when she had free time. At this moment, the mother-in-law and the daughter-in-law, one making the twists and the other holding the long chopsticks, cooperated tacitly, and the smile never left their faces. The naughty boys in the school are already greedy. This morning, smelling the aroma in the air, they wiped their saliva and read at the same time. Occasionally, during a break after class, they would gather together to guess what delicious food would be cooked in the Li family courtyard. Actually, life at home is also easy for them. Especially in the past few days, the village had a large scale to divide the money, and at least one family divided more than 100 taels of silver. Pour a jar of vegetable oil and fry something delicious, even the stingiest person can do it. But I don't know if the rice is more delicious when cooked in another pot. The boys are just greedy for the Li family's food. After school finally ended, they rushed to the door of Li's house in a swarm, pushing each other, laughing and noisy, and they were too embarrassed to come forward and lean on the door. Zhao Yuru thought it was almost time, so she came out to take a look, and then quickly brought a plate full of twists. Each naughty boy got a piece. Even the shy and honest little girls following behind, everyone has a share. Zhao Yuru packed an extra plate and asked the naughty boys to run errands to deliver it to Mr. Zhang and Gu Li. Before the naughty boy came back to deliver the plates, the Marquis brought Jiyan and Jiaxi and Jian to the door. Zhao Yuru was so happy when she saw her son and nephew that she called her mother-in-law loudly. Mrs. Li even hugged her 2 grandsons. She was so distressed that she kept stuffing hot twists and nuts into their hands. Jiaxi and Jian were not polite. While eating on the doorstep, they talked about what skills they had learned during this period. That look of joyful expression showed that the two of them liked this job of the Foreign Affairs Department very much. Li Laoer is at home today, but Li Zhensheng and Li Laoxi went to the fleet to unload the cargo. Mr. Ho and Li Laoer sat together to drink tea and chatted a few words. The Marquis then said, "The matter of hibiscus ointment has made the Emperor pay more attention to the south. In order to prevent the people from causing trouble, the Emperor plans to send people to investigate outside. Jiaxi and Jian are strangers. Our family has a simple background and is loyal enough, therefore, the Foreign Affairs Department may take Jiaxi and Jian out this time. Although this investigation is kept secret and the manpower is reliable, but there is only 1 in 10,000, so we still have to take risks. If the family is reluctant to part with it, tell me as soon as possible and I will find a way to pick out the 2 boys." Li Laoer felt bitter in his heart when he heard this, and he really couldn't laugh. Ji Yi stayed with the Hailan army to kill the Japanese pirates. Although my mother supported him, she still lost a bit of smile these days, and the black and blue circles under her eyes were very obvious. Finally, Jiaxi and Jian came back. The old lady was just happy when the 2 boys had to go out again. Weifan is far away from Tianwu. I heard that it takes a month to get to the nearest place by boat. Wandering at sea, the weather is unpredictable and dangers are everywhere. If there is an emergency, it will really make the sky not respond and the earth will not work. Privately, he wanted to shake his head immediately and prevent his nephews from taking risks. But the Foreign Affairs Department has been trying its best to raise 2 children for a long time, and I'm afraid he won't give up easily. Not to mention, a door and half a yard away, he could hear his 2 nephews talking and laughing. Needless to say, these are 2 restless people. Even if the family forces them to stay, they will still be unhappy. Master Ho, let the old lady have a good new year first, and we can talk about this after the new year. Okay, the Marquis nodded. The Foreign Affairs Department will be in office on the 13th day of the first lunar month to run errands. If we set out, we should arrange it on the 14th day of the first lunar month at the earliest. Within a few words, Mrs. Lee had already brought the plate into the room with a smile. No matter how powerful Mr. Lee and Mr. Ho are outside, they are just children in Mrs. Lee's eyes. Children are all greedy. How can we not feed them the delicious food that has just been cooked? So, Mr. Wen came back from the city. As soon as he entered the courtyard of Lee's house, he saw Li Lauer and Mr. Ho, each taking a stick of twist and biting it one bite after another. There was also an old lady Li sitting next to her who was full of kindness. He subconsciously turned around to leave, but the sharp-eyed Ji Yin noticed him and pulled him into the house with a smile. After a while, the team that gnawed on twists and turns had one more member. On the second day, the Marquis had something to do and had to go back to the military camp at the dock. He could not accompany Ji Yin into the palace. Father and daughter drove out of Broken Gold Beach in a carriage. On the side of the road, everyone in the Chen family was still wielding pickaxes and shovels, fighting against the freezing winter soil. In just a short period of time, the wealthy Chen family has become so miserable that they are worse than beggars. This is because the Li family was so noble that they allowed the Chen family to send thick coats and quilts. Otherwise, their noses may be filled with runny noses and their faces may turn as blue as eggplants. The Chen family also wanted to send food, but the Li family resolutely drove them away. The Li family doesn't want these people to freeze to death and commit murder, but they also don't want them to live too comfortably and lose their original intention of atonement. Moreover, 2 large stoves were built outside the hut where the Chen family stayed. In the morning and evening, each person has a bowl of sorghum rice porridge to satisfy his hunger. At noon, some cabbage, radish, etc. will be added to the sorghum rice porridge, and a handful of salt will be added to taste. When escaping from famine, this kind of food is a life-saving food that is cherished by young and old in new villages. But now, in the eyes of the Chen family, it is a weapon to torture them. I used to eat mountains and sea flavors, big fish and meat, and suddenly sorghum rice porridge, the gap between heaven to hell. But what they think is not within the consideration of everyone in Zincan. It is already a kindness to leave them alive even if they come looking for trouble. Ji Yin lay at the window and glanced at the Chen family for a few times. When she turned around and saw that her adoptive father was thinking about her, he smiled and tried to persuade her. Don't worry, foster father, your daughter is now a devil that everyone is afraid of. No blind person dares to mess with me. They are also afraid of being caught and digging ditches. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 718. Chapter 718, Manager Yi is a good thief. The Marquis was amused. He rubbed her hair and sighed, you really buried more than 100 people in the Chen family that day, so my adoptive father didn't worry about you anymore. It's a pity that the hibiscus ointment matter was not investigated, otherwise it would be their turn to dig ditches alive. The father and daughter chatted and quickly arrived at the city gate. The Marquis changed his horse and rushed to the dock. Mammy He and Shui Ling got into the carriage from outside to wait on them, and then rushed to the palace. Ji Yin, the title of Princess Kangol, is quite useful. Not long after handing over the sign, Eunuch Feng came to the door in person to greet him. Ji Yin stuffed a purse for him, euphemistically calling it a festive red envelope for the Chinese New Year. Eunuch Feng was coaxed to smile and revealed a lot of news. Although the emperor has already sealed his pen and waited for the new year, he still received an urgent memorial yesterday. 300 miles east of Zindu, a heavy snowfall suddenly occurred in a county town. The county magistrate was mediocre and he failed to treat the situation in time. More than 200 people were killed or injured. The emperor got angry last night and has sent officials to deal with it today, but he is still in a bad mood. Ji Yin nodded, knowing what to do, and quickly decided to take the innocent and cute route today. So, as soon as she entered the royal study, she put on her brightest smile, ran towards the emperor, and shouted even more cheerfully. Uncle Huang, your family's god of wealth, little fortune, has brought you some money. Sure enough, the emperor laughed when he heard this. He got up to pick up the fat girl, led her to sit down, and said with a smile, "Why, our second boss has come to pay the bills. Business is booming these days. With the protection of my Uncle Wang's dragon energy, the business must be prosperous. The money is like having long legs, running hard into our shop." Ji Yin patted his chest, looking so proud and stinky, which made the emperor laugh again. Finally, he briefly flipped through Bianjian's account book and was completely surprised. Has a dim sum shop made a profit of more than 6,000 taels in just a few months? This is equivalent to the tax money of a county town for half a year. Ji Yin hurriedly looked at the door of the study, lay down next to the emperor and said in a low voice, "Uncle Huang, don't be so loud, be careful that others can hear you. The business our shop does is very profitable. A birthday cake costs 10 taels of silver, and the cost is only a few hundred coins. Of course it's profitable. After I wait, I will open branches all over Tianwu and earn money to build a bigger palace for the emperor." The emperor was amused and heart-warmed. Thinking about those officials who were lying on their backs, and then looking at this fat girl who was so sincere in front of me, I really liked her from the bottom of my heart. But it wasn't over yet. Ji Yin asked Eunuch Feng for help and brought up the New Year's gift she had prepared. In fact, there is nothing particularly good. The emperor has never stopped eating vegetables and fruits that are rare in the eyes of others. Because Manager Yi is a good at harvesting wool and the vegetables in Huangzhuang are not good, he has been keeping an eye on the Li family this winter. So, this good news includes 8 more pots of peonies and 2 more pots of kumquats in addition to fruits and vegetables. Each pot of peonies blooms beautifully, and the grace of blooming makes people feel happy when they see it. Kumquat even replaced the 2 pots at the door. Because the 2 pots of kumquats were in worse condition than the sheep of the Li family, they had been bald. Except for the leaves, they are just leaves, with no gold left at all. Ji Yin ate fruit with the emperor, told a lot of interesting things about opening a shop, and then left after paying over the bank notes. She tugged at the corner of the emperor's clothes and begged in a low voice, "Uncle Huang, Fu Niuer doesn't want to go to Shaokong Palace and Cunning Palace. Can you send someone to help Fu Niuer deliver the New Year's gift?" The emperor was stunned for a moment. He smiled, nodded, and said, "Okay, this is a small matter. You should leave the palace and go home as soon as possible." "Thank you, Uncle Huang." Ji Yin smiled like a flower again, then bowed and left the palace happily. The emperor sighed and asked Manager Yi, "This child has a simple mind. It would be better if she doesn't go to other places. You can go and deliver her things to her." "Yes, Your Majesty." Manager Yi responded with a smile, lowering his head to hide the helplessness in his eyes. A little girl of just a few years old can coax the emperor into spinning around. No matter how you look at it, it has nothing to do with the word innocent. It's a pity that the emperor didn't think so. He took the several thousand taels of silver notes and put them into a box with great care. Although, he is the lord of a country and is rich all over the world. But the several thousand taels of silver were different. They were earned by him as a boss. Before Mr. Yi could go out, the third princess came in a hurry. She also took an account book, and Dion and her father presented the treasure. "Father, look how much money my shop has made." The emperor didn't want to disappoint his daughter, and it was rare for this stupid kid to do something serious, so he patiently took the account book and glanced at it. He frowned and asked, "Your branch has been open for more than a month, and the profit is only more than 100 taels." The third princess was stunned for a moment and replied, "Father, Do you think you are making too little money? She rolled her eyes, changed her tune and started complaining. It's all that Li Jiyan's fault. She doesn't give good things to the branch, for fear that I will steal her business. She recently released a new product, but she didn't even tell me. I haven't settled the score with her yet. The emperor rubbed his temples and asked, are these profits of yours the pure profits after deducting the wages of the clerks and others, and deducting all the fees? How could the third princess know? She took the account book from Baolei and ran over happily as soon as she saw how much money she had earned. She could only bite the bullet and said, everyone is a slave of the Bao family, and they don't need to be paid. Baolei is also the one who cleans the shop, and there is no capital at all. It's that Li Jiyan who set the purchase price too high and didn't leave much profit for me. She secretly sold new products and robbed all the customers, so. The emperor really couldn't listen anymore and couldn't explain. He waved his hand and said, I'm tired. You can go back. The third princess felt extremely aggrieved and shouted, Father! You smile brightly when you see that Li Jiyan. Why do you become so cold-hearted when you see me? I am your biological child. You are partial. After saying that, she turned around and ran away. Needless to say, I naturally went to the queen to complain in tears. The emperor's good mood, which he had finally recovered, was completely lost again. He pointed to the door and said to Manager Yi, she looks like this, what can I say? She said she wanted to do business, but she didn't put in any capital or energy, so she gave the shop to the Bao family. The Bao family was going crazy, grabbing money everywhere. How could they put money into her business? This account book is obviously wrong. The Bao family has embezzled money, and she can't see it. How could I give birth to such a stupid daughter? Every time I compare with Fu Niuer, she is half as good as Fu Niuer, so I don't need to be so angry. Mr. Yi couldn't say anything wrong with the third princess, so he could only smile and reassure the emperor. The third princess is still young and doesn't understand the sinister nature of people's hearts nowadays. The Bao family is becoming more and more bold in their actions, some of them jumping over the wall in a hurry. After a while, the important matter will be found out and settled together. When the third princess sees the true face of the Bao family, she will naturally understand clearly. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 719. Chapter 719, It's better to trick children as early as possible. No matter how angry the emperor is, he can't really strangle his stupid daughter to death, he can only let it go. It was the queen who came to see her on the pretext of seeking justice for her daughter. It's a pity that the emperor felt unhappy when he thought about her trying every possible means to deceive him into creating a human being, and he didn't see her at all. Jiyan doesn't know this, and even if he knew it, he wouldn't care. The third princess is not a business person at all. She has to take care of everything, and she refuses to pay even a penny. Every day she acts like she is a princess, which is my greatest virtue. The Bao family is already crazy poor, how could they not cheat her? Even though she didn't see the branch's account books, Jian did have records of the branch's purchases. With a casual calculation, you can estimate that the profit of the branch is 600 to 700 taels, but the Bao family only kept a little more than 100 taels in their books. It can be said that they are not evil. The days are rushing by so fast in the midst of sending and receiving New Year gifts. The Liu family's New Year's gift was also given by the Jiaran brothers. Mrs. Liu was particularly fond of the children of the Li family. He kept them to eat and gave them a jade pendant before letting them go home with even more generous gifts in return. Because when the Chen family came looking for trouble, Guo Wenhao brought his slaves to help. The Li family specially prepared a New Year gift for him. Guo Wenhao was filial and could not come to the house, so he asked Mr. Wen to send back 2 knives of good paper, a set of famous pens, and some chicken, duck, fish, and other food. I have to say that a skinny camel is bigger than a horse. The Guo family has fallen into decline, but it still has some foundation. At least it is difficult to find good paper and famous pens outside. On the 27th day of the 12th lunar month, Ji Yin discussed with his brothers and gave Zhenghe, Zhengfeng, Shuiling, Shuiyun, and Zhengyi a holiday. Only Zheng Sanjiang was unwilling to return to Zhuangzi, so he asked to stay and help take care of the relief department. Brothers Li Laoer and Ji Aran also privately gave red envelopes to their own people to commend them for their hard work and loyalty for a year. The good news was to give Shuiling and Shuiyun each a set of silver jewelry, a box of exquisite palace flowers produced in the palace, new coats and skirts made at home, and 12 heavy silver taels. It was enough for them to go home and celebrate the new year in style. Yashan and Hungmei were also dressed in new clothes from head to toe. Hungmei also got a set of exquisite but not eye-catching gold jewelry. As the steward and steward's wife, they followed Zhenghe and others to Zhenjiazhuang on behalf of their master. By the way, I brought more than a dozen baskets of fruit, a whole pig, dozens of boxes of snacks, a lot of rice and noodles, and 200 taels of silver. This is for all the farmers in Zhenjiazhuang to reward them for obeying orders in everything this year regardless of the reason. When Yashan and Dongmei came back, they also brought the filial piety of all the farmers in Zhenjiazhuang. In addition to a large amount of game and furs, there are also some exquisite small mechanical objects. For example, an egg beater that saves effort and is more convenient, such as a telescopic dagger, or a robot hand that can help people fly over walls and walk on flat ground. I was so happy about the good news that I asked my brothers to play with it for a long time, and finally gave it to Jiaxi and Jian. Now, except for Mrs. Li, almost everyone in the family knows that Jia 11 and Jian will go overseas after the new year. Jian goes into the space every night and does nothing but work for his 2 brothers. In addition to all kinds of wound medicine, poisons, and tonics, which are all necessary, she searched the space carpet again and found all the useful things. Since this time and space is almost the same parallel space as the ancient one in the previous life, the positions of all overseas countries should be similar. Hence, she focused on the world map of her previous life and copied it carefully. She also found the compass she bought for fun when she was a child from a broken box in the warehouse. There are also the habits and preferences of foreigners that she heard and understood in her previous life. She even drew pictures of muskets and cannons, as well as some important plants and supplies. Now, with the addition of the mechanical claw and the scheming dagger sent by Zhenjiazhuang, there are 2 more boosts. In fact, even so, she was still worried about her brothers. If possible, she could not wait to go with him. Unfortunately, this idea is simply impossible to realize. The brothers went out and left her by their side. Maybe after some time, Grandma would feel better. But if she also goes to sea, Grandma is afraid that she will go crazy immediately. The days were so busy, and finally the 29th day came. There is no 30 this year, 29 is the last day of the old year. Every household wakes up early and is busy preparing ingredients to prepare for the big meal in the middle of the afternoon. The dumplings served at midnight are also the highlight. The naughty boys were running around the village excitedly, causing trouble from time to time, which made the old lady yell a few times, but they couldn't beat or scold them. On the other hand, the little girls from each family followed their mother obediently and helped out. But when we arrived at the Li family, it was different. Good news also comes in the kitchen, euphemistically called help. Actually, I was holding a small bowl and eating non-stop. In the end, Tao Hongying snatched her daughter's bowl and kicked her out. "You greedy girl, you can't eat any more. If you continue to eat, you will lose your appetite for dinner. Go talk to your grandma and make them happy." Ji Yin reluctantly held her belly in her hands and moved out of the kitchen. Although the banquet is open, she can sit down and eat openly and eat as much as she wants. But she just felt that eating it secretly in the kitchen was the most delicious. In her previous life, she lived with her grandparents. Grandpa and Grandma are very strict and don't allow her to eat anywhere else except at the dining table. Later, when I was in college, I went home with a little sister who lived in the same dormitory in the same city. I saw the little sister in the kitchen, joking with her parents, eating secretly, and occasionally stuffing some into her mouth. She then realized that the food could still be eaten like this, and it was so fragrant and so happy. In this life, she has fully made up for this regret. Mrs. Lee was chatting and eating melon seeds with Aunt Wu. Opposite her sat Wenjuan and Mrs. Wen, the two most protected babies. Huanayang and sister-in-law Lu were both busy in the kitchen, and their three naughty children were left in the care of the old lady. The naughty children were playing around, stumbling and almost hitting Mrs. Wen and Wenjuan several times. Jiyan ran into the house. Seeing this, he decisively took on the responsibility of the child king. She took out 2 bananas and asked the naughty children to share them. But if 3 children share 2 bananas, how can they all get the same size? So, the 3 naughty children sat in a circle, drooling, eagerly watching the good news, and from time to time they heard her shouting, "Oh, this part is too long, wait a minute, sister will help you take a bite." Finally, one of the 2 bananas went into Jiyan's belly, and each of the 3 naughty children took a small piece. Thinking it was fair, they licked it into their mouths with a silly smile. Mrs. Lee and others watched it from beginning to end, bursting into laughter and making fun of each other. Fu Niu is so treacherous. That's it, when you and your younger brothers and sisters grow up, I'll see if you blush when I mention Sister Fu Niu as the one who tricked their bananas. Jiyan chuckled, not blushing at all. You have to trick your children as early as possible. She rolled over to her grandma and asked her to rub her belly. End of this chapter. Dressed as a farm boy, he cheated on his way out of the desert. Author, Delayed Flowering. Chapter 720. Chapter 720 Happy Reunion. In the hall outside, the village chief, Uncle Zhao, the others, and Dr. Zhang all changed into new coats, pants, shoes and socks from head to toe. They were talking lively with the brothers Ho Ye, Li Yang, Lu Biatu, Mr. Wen, Mr. Zhang and Li Zhensheng. Li Yang and Huanayang regard the Li family as their husband's family, so they naturally come over for a reunion dinner during the Chinese New Year. In this way, the village elders and the couple would inevitably be lonely. So Mrs. Li went over in person and invited them over. Mr. Wen and Mrs. Wen are just 2 people. Mrs. Wen is still pregnant, and Mrs. Li is reluctant to let her work too hard, and even wants to invite her to eat together. Mr. Zhang brought little Gilai to school and was alone in the school. Mr. Lu and his wife did not have their eldest son with them. In short, the Li family's meals become bigger and bigger as time goes by, and the more lively they become. Simply, 3 tables were opened at once, and everyone gathered together to express their gratitude for the hard work throughout the year. When they were full, they went back to their homes and waited for the gods to cook dumplings in the middle of the night. Li Lauer and Mr. Wen had to go to the palace for a banquet, so they reluctantly got into the carriage. Jiyan and the old lady both took sick leave and were spared the pain of braving the wind and snow. The Marquis is wearing a big cloak and wants to ride back to the military camp at the dock. He is the commander-in-chief of an army, and it is his duty to accompany the soldiers to the New Year's Eve dinner. As for the home mansion, in the morning, the good news had already passed, and rewards had been distributed to everyone in the manor. There are many children in the Li family. Except for Ji, they are all at home. You don't have to worry about getting sleepy during the night watch. Jia 11 and Jian have a noisy temperament, and with the addition of Cat Brother, they almost lift the roof off the house. Mrs. Li brought her son and daughter-in-law with her to talk about the family's income for the year, big things and small things. Li Zhensheng and his brothers are a little ashamed. Their mother is old and has to take care of the house and outside. But Mrs. Li was very happy with it. Having a prosperous family business and healthy and safe children and grandchildren is better than anything else. Staying until midnight, the manager Li Lauer and Mr. Wen came back. The family cooked and ate dumplings. The boys couldn't bear the sleepiness and took a nap on the kong. Jiyan also fell asleep holding her grandma's lap. In a daze, she heard the sound of firecrackers outside. She rubbed her eyes and sat up. When she saw the hazy white fish belly outside the window, she couldn't help but laugh. The new year is here. Mrs. Li heard the noise, opened the door and saw her granddaughter sitting in front of the window. She held her in her arms and said with a smile, "Fu Niuer, it's a new year. Grandma's precious granddaughter will definitely be safe. You will grow up healthily." Jiyan put her arms around Grandma's neck, gave her a kiss on the face, and responded crisply, "Grandma will also live a long life and stay with Fu Niuer for the rest of her life." "Okay, okay," Mrs. Li hugged her fat granddaughter and smiled happily. At this time, Jia and Jia 11 ran in from outside. Jia 11 shouted, "Sister, let's go, let's set off the firecrackers." Having said that, the two of them randomly put on shoes and a cloak for their sister, pulled them off and left. The angry Mrs. Li gave them a slap in the face. A thin layer of snow fell in the yard, and there were footprints everywhere. It was messy and lively. In the kitchen, steam was rising. Tao Hongying and Zhao Yuru were busy. Occasionally, they looked over at the laughing children and couldn't help but laugh too. After breakfast, before the villagers who wanted to pay New Year greetings arrived, Mrs. Li gave out red envelopes to her children and grandchildren. The boys knelt down in rows, kowtowed to their grandma with smiles, and then held big red seals and flowers. This year, the family has a lot of income. Mrs. Li thinks that her grandchildren will grow up and have more places to spend money, so everyone from Jiaran to Mao Gear received 50 taels of silver notes. When it was the good news's turn, Mrs. Li directly gave her 100 taels. The boys are not jealous either. Because the money my sister secretly gives them on weekdays will only be more than this. After a while of commotion, the village chief, Dr. Zhang, and Uncle Zhao all arrived. By bringing the elderly together, it is also convenient for people in the village to pay New Year greetings and save them from running around. Sure enough, as soon as they arrived, the villagers came behind. The women gathered in front of the old lady to talk, while the men led the boys and girls to kneel down and kowtow to the elders. Li Laoci brought up a large wooden box filled with copper coins. Old Mrs. Li grabbed a handful and gave them to the boys and girls one by one, making them very happy. Jiyan also took out 2 boxes of exquisite palace flowers and distributed them to the little girls as an extra supplement. The little girls had hairpins on their braids, their beautiful little faces flushed. It has been busy for half the morning, and the 4 members of the Singh family came to pay their New Year's greetings with their treasures. Mr. Singh was very happy to see that the Li family was as lively and simple as his wife said. He insisted on kneeling down and kowtowing to Dr. Zhang, thanking the old man for saving his wife's life. Physical Dr. Zhang helped Mr. Everyone could not help but laugh, and did not reveal the unreliable nature of this old man. Mr. Singh was sincerely grateful and presented an out-of-print medical book with both hands. What he usually does is compile books. Facing the mountains of royal books, it is not difficult to find a rare medical book. But this made Dr. Zhang extremely happy. Perhaps in order to have such good things happen in the future, he immediately took Master Singh's pulse and prescribed him a prescription to nourish his body, ensuring that he could regain his virility and have another son and a half-daughter. Mr. Singh was made red-faced, but he also put the prescription away. After a while, Jimin and Jiuji from the Lu family also came to pay New Year's greetings. Their home was also overcrowded and Lu's Haihang couldn't get out, so the two boys took on the heavy responsibility. Jiyan waved her hand and took her brothers and sisters to the greenhouse. In the greenhouse, you can eat whatever you want and it's warm. It's much more comfortable than staying with an adult. Jiaran wanted to say a few words to Wan'er, but he was the eldest grandson and could only stay in front to entertain the guests. Beizu is a frequent visitor to the greenhouse, but he is not polite at all. He drags cousin Wan'er to pick grapes and pet the little fox, laughing and giggling. Those who don't know, think she is at home. Jiyan gnawed on the fruit and watched her brothers and sisters playing happily, and couldn't help but sigh in her heart. It may not be easy to see such excitement again in the future. On the second day of the Lunar New Year, Jia Huan took a car to Luoan to visit his father-in-law and mother-in-law. Wenjuan's belly is big and she will give birth in 1 month. Not only is it difficult to move around at this time, the new wife of the Peng family who came in late is also not a good person. Mrs. Li is worried that her grandson's daughter-in-law might get a little angry after she returns and hurt her unborn great-grandson. Wenjuan is also happy about this. She now belongs to her husband's family wholeheartedly, and her family is more like a dispensable relative to her. Mrs. Wen and Mr. Wen packed up their things and went to stay at Liu's house for 1 night. So busy, it's the 5th day of the Lunar New Year in a blink of an eye. The gods eat dumplings on the 5th day. After eating the dumplings, for ordinary people, the New Year has passed. They should continue to work and make a living. Li Laoer also talked to his mother about his family's happiness and his family's going to sea after dinner. Unexpectedly, Mrs. Li did not get angry. Instead, she took her 2 grandchildren, Jia 11 and Jian, to stay for 1 night. She asked them carefully what they thought and listened to them talking happily about their yearning and curiosity about overseas. End of this chapter.